Welcome to Chik, the podcast where the girl with many titles talks about life, the good and the bad, and everything around it. We're going to sit, chat, share life stories and experiences, from business to relationship. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Chik podcast. Today I am joined by Josh Keegan. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second, but for those of you that haven't heard the podcast before, we are going to start with our challenges or tips of the week. In the middle, we're going to check in and just see how we're really doing. And then at the end, we are going to finish off with a win of the week because it should always be positive. So I'll let you work away. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And obviously, we've known each other now for, how long has it been? It must be a year, maybe?
Yeah, just over a year, I think.
Yeah, cool. And so obviously, a big part of my online persona is created by your fine self. So what do we do? My name's Josh Keegan. I live in Manchester in the UK, and I'm a chartered accountant, an entrepreneur, and I basically help entrepreneurs sort their finances, get in control of their money, master their margins, and create businesses that are profitable, lucrative, scalable, and of value. I live with my partner in a house in Manchester, and I've got a little girl who's called Iris, who's 1 year old, and another little baby on the way.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
So we'll jump in before, because I do want to cover bits of Iris, because as you've said, so I work with Josh through Oversubscribed, and we work together on your content. So obviously there are bits I know about your life that other people normally wouldn't know about others. So there are definitely parts that I'm probably going to have to step back and make you explain yourself first, because it's just going to sound like I'm such a stalker, but it's because I do know so much of like what happens in your life in a weird way. But
yeah, you take a genuine interest in it, which is nice.
Yeah, but I think that's because all of you are just so impressive, and I was really lucky to get a group of clients that just do stuff that, like, I sit and I look at my life and go, I'm genuinely, like, I'm fair enough, I'm working, but I'm genuinely learning stuff that I know is like helping me in life. And actually that's going to be one of the things that we talk about, because especially when it comes to like business and finance, it's not the most exciting thing, but yeah, we'll come back to that in a sec. Okay, so what is your challenge of the week or your tip of the week?
It's a good question. Was I sent this before? Am I literally just on the spot thinking of my challenge or tip?
You were sent this before.
Oh, was I? Cool. Well, I didn't read that, so I'm literally thinking about it right now. What my challenge of the week is. So I would say that my biggest challenge this week at the moment is probably around balance, and we all have this. In that I am working very hard at the moment. We've got a lot of projects going on. We've got a lot of clients happening. A lot of our stuff that we're doing is, is a relatively new. A lot of the packages and services that we actually deliver for our clients, and we're juggling and spinning a lot of plates. And I've also got team members actually delivering on this for me. Yeah. So when you have all of that workload, you've got other people doing the work, and you've got to manage and make sure everything's working effectively and give them all the support they need. I find that I can get to the end of the day and just feel absolutely drained. Yeah. But then I finish that day and I go down, I've got a 1 year old downstairs who's still full of energy. And then I've got to switch into that mode and not take away from that wonderful time, and make sure that I'm present, make sure I'm engaged, and make sure I'm actually enjoying that time, as opposed to just waiting until she goes to bed. And I think yesterday was a bad example of that, where I was just on meetings till like about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and I just felt absolutely drained, went downstairs, and I wasn't in the best frame of mind at all. I just don't think I delivered on that particularly well. So biggest challenge at the moment is just trying to reduce the hours a little bit, and also when I go downstairs, just snap back into it, making sure that I remember that we only live this life once, and she's only going to be one once, and having being tired, being just not getting into that mood of being tired, being a bit stressed, and wishing the night away, and just doing my best to be present and being engaged, and laugh, enjoy, and use that as an opportunity to de-stress, as opposed to kind of cage up and feel tired and try and sit quietly on the sofa.
Yeah, no, I love that. Do you know what? That's interesting, because I think my challenge of the week is, in a sense, there's a bit that comes in that's similar to you. So I've got the side of it where I'm trying to manage a team, I'm trying to keep everything going, I'm trying to stay positive myself. But then on the other end, I'm pushing myself to try and like just be more salesy. Like, I use my social media. For me, I'm really lucky because I fell into being an influencer in like content creation and that, and I've got an agency literally by accident. Obviously, it's not completely by accident, but it's because it came from the influencer side. But brands always came to me and do still come to me. So I suppose I never really had to go out and look for sales. Whereas now I'm at the point where I know, like, I love what you do because you're such a lifestyle entrepreneur. And that's something that I suppose before I started this agency, because I've been in business for nearly 15 years, well, over 15 years. But before that, I didn't really see lifestyle entrepreneurs. It was just, you have to like aim to be Bill Gates. Whereas I was like, no, I just want to be able to work from anywhere in the world, spend time with my family, and turn my laptop off whenever I want to do that and create content and create work that just fits around my life. Whereas at the moment, I'm having to go out there and go, well, actually, if I now I know what that life looks like, I need to earn a certain amount. I need to get to a certain place. The team needs to earn a certain amount. What does that look like? It means I'm going to have to go out and start selling. And I can't lie, I'm hating it. But I keep saying to myself, the more I do it, it's going to be uncomfortable right now, but the more I do it, it's going to become easier. And because I'm used to being in front of the camera, I'm going to get to a point where, like at the moment, it's easier on TikTok because I can just wake up, look terrible, and no one cares. Whereas Instagram's so curated that I always feel like have to look presentable. Whereas this morning I got a delivery from a brand West Coast Cooler, and I was like, actually, I'm so excited that I literally want to share as I like unpackage what they've sent. I want to share that with everyone. Sorry. So I think I suppose my challenge of the week is just getting into sales mode and forgetting about the outside noise and what everyone else might think and just doing it, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's my life. It's You only get one life, and it's how I want it to be.
I can tell by the way you're speaking, it's quite potentially like it's a bit overwhelming, and you just kind of like not. It's one of those things where you're forcing yourself to do it. You find it a bit of a challenge and a bit more of a challenge than you probably want. I think one of there's loads of really cool things you said there. So one of the key points about lifestyle entrepreneurship, and I think we all go on that journey. When we all start out, we all think that we want this huge multi-million-pound business, that one day we're going to have an office that we walk into with 100 employees, and we're this big managing director or CEO of this big company. But as we start to scale and go on that journey, we hit this point, and either it comes from a place of reaching a certain income target where we finally go, right, we get our £5,000 a month that we always wanted, and we're like, well, now I've got this, like I don't really want any more. I've got the holidays I want. I don't have to worry about money anymore. My life's really good and I don't really want for anything. So why keep pushing? Why keep trying to double that? Or we keep scaling and realize the amount of stress, and like you're talking about sales now, you know, you're not really keen on doing sales. Some people love that. Most entrepreneurs are quite big fan of sales, and what they don't like is the back office, the HR, the admin that comes with running a big business. So we get to a point where we move away from the front line of sales, the bit that we have that entrepreneurial flair and that energy, and we have to stop doing all this kind of work and admin and all the things we don't enjoy doing. And then once again, we go, look, this is what I've got a business to do. Like I don't know, I don't need all of this, and I don't really want that, because the romance is very different to the actual reality. I think sales is one of those things where you love or you hate it, and I would say I hate it initially, like the getting going. I don't enjoy. But then when you actually start closing the sales, I think there's kind of no other feeling like it.
Yeah, that's so true. And to be fair, because so I always have like your voice in the back of my head, and right, so I'll ask you, because in my experience, like I said, in the businesses that I've been in, I think before I had the agency, I always had a full-time job as well as the businesses that I had. So I always kind of had that security in a sense where if things didn't go well or didn't go the way that I wanted, it wasn't a huge issue. Whereas obviously at the moment, I'm working full time for yourself. It currently is. So, and because my mindset when it comes to money is always, I don't, how do I explain this? So, just in terms of like my mum and dad grew up in Zambia, moved me and my brother when we were very, very young. So, I've seen them pick up their whole lives to give their kids the best opportunities in the world. And they have, because like I bought my house at 24. Not many people get to say that. Not many people get to say that they drive the car that I drive. They get to do the things that I do. I've just spent a year where I've watched my niece grow up. I've been in England nearly every month. And yet the money mindset for me is still something that I stress over so much. So what would be your top tip for any entrepreneurs, I suppose, that are getting either into business or need to relook at the finances and how they look at finances, so it's not just overwhelming?
Yeah, well, there's probably a few kind of different questions within that. And I think I mean, what, just before we dive into that, what would you say your money mindset is? Like, what actually is it? If you're going to sum it up and say, this is my money mind, is it a scarcity mindset that we're concerned that we're going to run out? Is it that we feel like we never have enough? Is it worry? Is it, you know, that you actually earn a lot of money, you spend it all? Like, what is your money mindset?
I think part of it is worry, but I've always had this kind of like, for me, a lot of my everything falls back to fear of success. What does success look like? Because other people could turn around to me, like I get people all the time like, oh, you do so well, you're so happy, but in my mind I have this goal, this fulfillment, and what I want my life to look like. And as long as it doesn't look that way, and as long as I'm not, like, I can't retire now, I'd love to get there in the next 10 years, but there's just a fear that at some point, I don't, is it that you're like a therapist now? Maybe it's a fear that things could go so well, and then what am I supposed to do? Or if I do put myself out there even more and things don't work out, then what the hell am I supposed to do? Because especially because I really enjoy what I do now as well.
Yeah, I think it's they're all very real things and real concerns. And you know, when I said at the start that I it's the sales at the start of the sales, I hate it, and it probably is that fear of that I'm about to put myself out there, you know, put loads of posts up, drum up loads of things, start a webinar. And what happens if I make no sales?
Yeah.
So it's that same kind of concept. It's just that, I guess it's just that fear of the unknown, and not really knowing where you're going to get to, and where you're going to progress. But I think something that happens over time as you kind of develop as an entrepreneur, and as you kind of go through it year on year on year, is you just kind of have this almost unwavering confidence that, you know, as long as the plan is a good plan, and as long as you have an idea of where you want to get to, and as long as you've got the skill set and you've kind of done different elements of it before, you just have this confidence that you will get there. And it doesn't really matter what it is, that you're going to get there, and you're going to achieve whatever you set out to do. So now when I look at a sales target, or when I set my own sales target, one, I've set these before and I've hit them, so I know how to set a good sales target. And then the second is all around, I've set these before and I've executed and I've done it, and I know what works and what doesn't work. So over time, I think you just kind of gain that confidence that you're going to get there. When you get there, and we've you know, you hear this all the time. People talk about goals, and people talk about the fact that, you know, when you actually achieve a goal, is never as fulfilling as you hoped it would be. That's 100% the case, but you have to kind of go through that motion a few times to realize that. And it sounds like you already achieved a lot of goals. You sounds like you've had a re-baseline, and you're like, you know where you're going to go, you know what the next goal is. But I think it's just normal emotions, and maybe a few insecurities about actually getting there. And it could be like, you could argue it's self-sabotaging. It's like you're worrying about ones when you get there, and it's almost like you're actually scared that you won't get there. So you're using that as an excuse to say, right, well, you know, I'm worried, say that I'm worried about when I get there, so that if I don't get there, I say, well, I was worried about getting there anyway. And we have all these games that we play, and it's really being clear on what you want to achieve. And I think making it real and making it tangible and making it important is probably the biggest sentiment I'd kind of give to you on the journey you're on now. And back to your question, probably most people as well. So any goal that we set should never be arbitrary. It should never be something that we want to do because it sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when I started, I was very heavily in the property industry, and if you go to and speak to property investors, majority of property investors, like, if you say, where do you want to get to, 9 times out of 10 they'll say, I want to get to 10 grand a month. And there's no real science behind that number. There's no real logic behind that number. I think people just think it sounds good, and it becomes like a benchmark for success when you get to 10 grand a month. But the reality is, if you get to 10 grand a month and you only actually needed 6 grand a month, it's not going to feel that good. You know, you got some extra money, but you also got a lot of extra stress, a lot of extra pressure, and a few extra years to get there. And likewise, if you get to 10 grand and you actually need 15, it's not going to feel very good. So one of the biggest sentiments we have when we're working with clients and when we're looking at financials and forecasting is kind of a build it backwards approach. And it's, what do we actually want to achieve?
Yeah.
Why do we want to achieve it? Do we actually want to achieve it? And then we build the entire business to get there. And then when we get there, we're happy because it's what we actually want.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Okay, so we're getting kind of towards the middle. So I'll stop and then I'll come back. So for the middle, we talk about how are you actually doing. So I don't want this podcast to be like a mental health one, but I find it's really, really important. And for me, that's how I really like make relationships with clients, and that's how I really build relationships, because for me to get to know you, like I said, it looks like I stalk your life, but I have to get to know who you are and what you do day to day to be able to show you as a personal brand. What do you stand for? What does your business stand for? And ultimately, see, I'm talking about this now and I'm like, I know what I'm talking about with sales,
Yeah,
and
you
yet
do.
here I am limiting my own beliefs. But yeah, so I think it's just really important, because it's to sell your authentic self is how you get sales. And I think for you especially, that's something that you do really well in terms of how you talk about your family. So my first question is, how are you actually doing this week and in general?
It's a really good question, and if my normal answer would be yeah, brilliant, thank you. If I was to kind of peel that lower and not give that kind of generic answer, I'd say I'm fine. And I think it's something I'm very conscious of and something I'm working on,
Yeah,
is all around kind of self-talk and stuff in my head.
yeah,
And I've been working through it. I'm a very impatient person.
yeah,
And as I talked to you about my biggest challenge, like going down with my family and like just sitting there, and I can get very frustrated and get very short with people. I can kind of get just a bit ratty and in a mood for no reason. And I know it comes from just being tired and just pushing myself in the day and then just wanting to switch off. But something I'm really working on at the moment is like the kind of the talk in my head that's going, oh, what, you know, why are they doing that so slowly? Why is this taking so long? Why, you know, what are you doing? Why are you standing in my way? And that comes into my head a lot, and I'm trying to work on that at the moment, try and get rid of that kind of those challenges and frustrations that come in there.
yeah,
If that wasn't going on in my head, I'd say I genuinely am really good, and I don't have all that kind of negativity. But I'd say that's still in there, and it has been for a long time, and I'm trying to work on that. And when that's gone, I find I'm in a really calm and very stressless state. And I think there's kind of a chicken and the egg element there of being calm and being very grounded and very rejuvenated, well slept, and in a really good place. And I find that my mind kind of calms down a lot. But likewise, it's quite hard to get there when you're not there. And I'm in that. I would say I'm in that stage at the moment where I actually feel very relaxed and in quite a calm place. I'm in control, but I'm just trying to. I'd say behind the scenes, honestly, that's the thing at the moment, which is probably making me not a 10 out of 10, but probably a 6 or a 7 out of 10, because that's not good. And I don't think that makes me feel like I'm in a particularly amazing place.
yeah. And to be fair, that's great of you to point out, and that's you're being really self-aware. And I feel like you were saying before, when you're self-aware and when you know what the problem is or the problems are, you know exactly how you're gonna hit that. And funnily
Mm.
enough, like how am I really? Overall, actually, to even say, like, with the stress that I'm talking about, I'm in a really good place mentally. Like, I had a check-in with my therapist the other week, and I just keep thinking about, like, I started therapy about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, and I look back from then to now, and I just think, like, you're talking about that calm and feeling not very stressed. I've just found that all of a sudden I do things that help myself. It's like last night, it got to a point yesterday where I wasn't feeling great. And I just thought, you know what? I've got a couple of things to tick off. I'm going to tick them off, and then I'm going to sit in bed for a bit, and I'm probably going to go to bed early. Then I stuck the TV on, and I just thought, actually, I'm just enjoying doing nothing. And if this had been me 2 years ago, I remember being really proud that I'd worked 7 weeks in a row, and I'd taken one day off. And now I look and I'm like, well, no, because I woke up this morning, like I don't wake up to alarms anymore. But I woke up this morning and thought, I can genuinely start this day, and no matter what happens, it's been a very busy day, and there are things that have happened that I wasn't expecting. But I know that once we get off this call, I'm going to be in such a good mood that I will do the work that needs to be done. I know what I need to do tonight. I know what I need to do for the weekend. And yeah, I think my mind mentally has just changed from where I used to be to where I am, so that I'm just seeing the positives in things, and I'm just finding just ways to be grateful and to practice
Mm.
gratitude. So yeah.
I
Yeah,
tell you what I discovered the other day. So, and what you're talking about there is just self care, and I'm very guilty of that. Like really bad at it. Like I'll keep pushing. Working out's a really good example where I
yeah,
feel absolutely exhausted, but I said no, I need to work out. I said I was going to work out, so I go and do it, and it just doesn't really help.
yeah.
I just found on my I don't know if you wear. I'm sure you wear a Fitbit or do you wear anything? Any
I
like
actually don't,
you're not.
because it's
So
telling
they've
me
got
that I
this.
don't exercise at all.
Yeah. Well, they've got on Garmin. So I've got a Garmin. I think there are other apps that do it. They've got this thing called Body Battery, and
Yeah,
I never really looked at it before. And in November, I had quite a rough month in that I got kind of sick twice,
yeah,
and yeah, it was just a bad month. And my little girl was teething at the same time as well, so it just meant basically being a bit ill, not being in the right place, not really sleeping very well. But what's amazing is that I had a look on the app on this Body Battery thing, and I was like, well, when were the dates where I was like that? Like, surely it can't have known. And I looked, and it's like literally just showed it was all a huge dip for those
wow,
dates. And what it does is it shows you how much you replenish by like looking at your sleep, looking at all these different factors,
yeah,
and then how much you take out by looking at exercise, and also factors in stress, which it can measure through what you call heart rate variability. So the difference between the beats of your heart. So you go it's not like a exact second. It's
yeah,
like second and 1, second and 2, second and 0.9. And what it does, it looks at the heart rate variability, and that's a real indication of how stressed you are. But so I've started looking at that now, and I think it would be really cool for you to get one of those, and for anyone listening to look at it, because like yesterday where you had that experience where you just you're like, I'm just knackered now. Like when you're like you are, where you've been taught a work ethic from your parents, and you, like most of us have, where we've got this weird kind of work ethic where we almost feel guilty when we're not working.
yeah,
It could just be another one of those things to look at and go, well, I can actually see here, it's saying that I'm very, like, I experienced a lot of stress. I didn't sleep well the last few nights, and
yeah,
my body battery is really, really low. So I've just been pushing myself a bit too hard, and it almost gives you that excuse to go, right, well, I just need to recharge this, because
yeah,
if your phone was running out of battery, you put it in, you put the charger into it.
yeah,
It's just the same thing. Just go and get into bed, watch TV, and it might help you kind of feel less guilty, or like less like you need to justify getting
yeah.
in bed and watching TV.
Do you know what? That's actually such a good point, and I definitely will look into that because I've noticed that in everything that I do, I need some kind of logical justification. So even like me being able to just sit upstairs and do nothing for a couple of hours before I went to bed, the justification in my head was, as long as I get a couple of things done, I know that I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll try and start early. I didn't start as early as I wanted, but I got it in my mind that okay, if I do this and give myself that bit of time off, then I'll pick everything else up. But like you're saying, it's not even the fact that like sometimes you just be nice to yourself, because one
Yeah,
thing I've always noticed is we always get stuff done. And for me, so this kind of leads to my second question I was talking about before. Obviously, I know that you quit alcohol at the beginning of the year. You have been working as a nomad. You've got a 1-year-old. I remember you'd sent through a post about going to baby sanctuary and like how everyone was really surprised that you as a guy you were there. And I remember thinking, oh, that's really cool. I love a present dad. It's like everything that you do, you really push yourself, but you push yourself and you achieve, because there's nothing that you do that you just go, I'm going to do this like half-heartedly. But then I'd sit there and be like, I started going to baby sensory classes. So my brother and sister-in-law, not too far from you actually, and I went to a baby sensory class, and I then came back home to work, and I thought, how the hell was he doing this? Because every time I was visiting this last year, I'd go and visit. My whole routine was changed because I'd have to be up super early with the baby and the dogs. I'd be going to things like baby sensory. Obviously, I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to exercise, and I'm just going. Physically, my body's going, you can't do this. I'd want to go to bed so early, and yeah, I looked back and I just thought, how the hell do you manage? So how have you coped this last year, like doing all of that? And yeah, like even I know that you've said you've talked about like, your Garmin and putting other things in place, but yeah, what's the experience been like?
yeah, it's an awesome question, and I think we're getting as part of prop. So we run a program for property entrepreneur, and I'm the host for it, and consistent feedback is like, how do you do all of this with kids?
Yeah,
Um, and I'd say probably one of the biggest things for me, and probably the biggest learning, and I still really struggle with it, is just letting go. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, as like a high performer, as an entrepreneur, as business owners, like we all want to, we all have this idea, right? I'm going to have this morning routine, and every day I'm going to get up at 5:30 a.m. and every day I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to always go to the gym at 4, and then I'm always going to get a walk, and then I'm always going to
yeah,
read for an hour in the evenings, and I'm always, and whatever, I'm always going to go to bed by 9. But when you have a little baby, and to be fair, just to be really clear, my Haley, my partner, is she's a lifesaver. Like without her, I wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff I do. And we're very fortunate that because I can work and the businesses do relatively well, she doesn't have to work. So she, she's basically a full-time mum. So without her, I think it would be a very different story. But as an entrepreneur, I think letting go is probably the biggest part. It's like I used to give myself a hard time if I didn't get up on time and didn't do my workout in the morning, for example. But the justification for that could be that I've been up 4 or 5 times in the night because Iris is sick and crying, or or Haley's been up 4 or 5 times in the night, and when I want to get up and do my workout, she's exhausted and just needs a rest. So I take Iris instead. And yeah, for a long time, just gave myself a hard time. And as I've moved forward, I'd say now I'm just kind of a bit more chilled about it. I have general things that I try and achieve. Like I try to, I do CrossFit 3 times a week, play football on a Monday, then normally run on a Sunday. But then I've kind of, that run on a Sunday can be a bit more variable depending on what's going on with my family. And then I like getting up, like generally it's 6 a.m. now. But if I'm up 4 or 5 times in the night and I don't get up at 6 a.m., I'm not going to give myself a hard time about it. So it's more just being a bit less hard on yourself. And I think it's really, it sounds like a good thing. I've always found it really difficult because maybe I've created this kind of belief system, or I was actually having a conversation with a friend today, and I don't know if you have had this experience, but when you were younger and you were sick and you didn't go to school, and you had to like I remember this one morning, just an example, where basically I felt really horrendous all night, and I must have been like 13, 14, I don't know. And I felt really bad all night. And then basically I woke up at 6 a.m. and I felt horrible. And I just went and told my mum, look, Mum, I don't think I'll go to school today. She went, yeah, it's absolutely fine. If you don't feel well, you don't go to school. And I got back in bed. But then I felt really awake because I'd woken up and I thought I was just going to go back to sleep. And I felt really awake. And then I was like lying there thinking, have I just lied? Have I just am I skiving a day off school? So I don't feel as bad as I felt like 20 minutes ago. Should I go down and tell my mum I feel a little bit better? And I had all this stuff playing out in my head. Like, am I lying here? Do I actually need this day off or not? And then I felt ill later and I felt bad. But it was like the point of that is, I think one of the things is just being really confident in yourself and really trusting and feeling your body. And for me, it was like when I make an excuse like, oh yeah, but I was up 4 or 5 times last night, that's why I'm not going to wake up at 6. It's like, well, is that a good reason, or am I just making up an excuse? And I find that really, like, this is all just a mind thing. It's all in my head, but I find that a really hard, that's my mental battle. It's like, am I just using this as a reason not to do something, or is it a legitimate excuse? And I don't think there's an answer, but I think the key point is it just doesn't really matter, because as long as you're either going to the gym or, looking after your partner, or you're spending really good quality time with your daughter, who actually cares which one of those you're actually doing? But I'm telling you that, and I'm speaking to myself as well, because
but
it's
you
not
know
easy.
what? That's such a good point, because I've never heard anyone else say that in the way that you have, and it's something that I really struggle with, because in my mind, like you've said, especially when you're a high achiever, you know that whenever you set goals, you meet them, you do whatever else, and when you do start to make excuses, you are then, especially when it's learned. At the end of the day, you get to a certain age where it's like, okay, you've spent so many years telling yourself that this is how it should look when I am ill. This is how it should look when I need time off. This is how it should look when whatever. And like you're saying, all of a sudden, especially when you are listening to your body, and that's something that I try and do more and more of now. So like I said, I don't use an alarm anymore. I try and eat better. I do things that in my life, I'd rather it be a lifestyle than, oh, I'm going to diet, or I'm going to try and do something. But then I sit there and go, am I making excuses, or do I genuinely need this time off? But then so I started doing these solo dates at the beginning of
These
the year.
what? Sorry, Soho dates.
Solo dates. So I just go
Solo
out
dates.
on my own, and I'd go for some food, I go for a coffee, I go for a walk, I just do random things. Sometimes it'd just be self-care at home. But that taught me that actually sometimes I just enjoy doing nothing. I just enjoy being on my own, or even if I go out, as long as I'm on my own, I've got that time to recharge. Then when I look at the next day, I'm really, really productive. So that's again one of those things where in my mind I say to myself, okay, but even if you think it's an excuse, look at your past and what normally happens when you do give yourself that little bit of a break, you are then like really happy and productive and you get loads done. So yeah, just hearing it the way that you described it, I literally sat there thinking, wow, I've never heard anyone else say it like that. Love it.
It's so true. Like one of the things I try and do every day is go for a walk at lunch. And I
Yeah.
always make lots of excuses to why, why I've got too much on. I need to get back for this, need to do this, need to do X, Y, Z. But it's whenever I do it, it means I just feel a lot better. I've just literally went for my walk before the recording this with you, and like I'm sitting here, I feel good, I'm engaged, I'm present. Whereas if I don't do it, it's the opposite. So it's just all those little things that we need to build in, and they just need to become non-negotiable. And it's
Yeah.
and we shouldn't really be prioritizing walking over our health or walking over work over our health or it's just not what life's about. But it's just so easy to get sucked into it.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so we're coming towards the end. So I'll ask you, so far, what has been your win of the week?
Um, first thing that pops into my head is putting up a shelf downstairs,
Nice.
which I know I don't know if that's appropriate, but I'm terrible at DIY. And this shelf, honestly, is the most complicated. It was the most complicated shelf I've ever put up on the planet. And although I've destroyed the walls, it all needs repainting. I've got the shelf on the wall, and it looks really good. It looks really, really, really smart. But no,
Yeah.
I think that's the first kind of home one that comes in as my win of the week. I'd say from a kind of business perspective, I've recently started working with a gentleman who started to support in our businesses and support our clients, basically like a accountant / project manager who helps us deliver on all the projects that we do for all of our client base. And we had a review with him and the clients yesterday,
Yeah.
and a few weeks ago we had a similar review, and I gave him loads of feedback. But yesterday he just handled that review so well, and it was just an absolute pleasure to sit there, listen, and just see how far he came in that short period of time.
Yeah.
And just and I gave him some more feedback afterwards, and just like the level of receptiveness there. So I think the reason why that's my win is it's just an absolute joy and a pleasure to work with good people. And it's like, yeah, it's just nice to see, and just to see other people adding value in the business is just always a wonderful experience. And particularly to have just such a talented talented man that's taken on feedback and is I can just see a very bright, prosperous future for us both. So it's just a real feel good moment.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Great. Well, I can't wait to hear about all of this in your content as well. And I want the
Yeah,
shelf for your content, by the way.
yeah, I'll take a picture.
Yeah. Okay, so my wins of the week. Do you know what? I like that you did a personal and a professional one. So my personal win of the week, do you know what? Funnily enough, is so I've grown up in a typical African household where, not actually, it's not a typical African household. That's the point. So the way that I grew up, whenever you walked into someone's house, it was normally the woman in the kitchen cooking, whilst the man was like watching TV. And I was over at my mum and dad's on Sunday. Literally, my mum's laid on the couch watching the football, whilst I'm sat with a glass of wine and my boyfriend and my dad were cooking. So yeah,
Nice.
my one of the week is just realizing that actually, I suppose this also is going to link to my business one, that I'm starting to build a life by design that fits me and isn't about culture or societal expectations. Because even in the business, I've been looking at how I am with my team. The fact that we talk about our mental health very openly, like we've got a good support system so that if anyone is dipping, someone's there to step in. We know that just in general, like even for me, that accountability where, like I've said, when I start to kind of take a step back and something's going on personally, I'm being more open with them. I've always been open anyway, but it's just in me saying I'm taking accountability for the fact that I know I've been rubbish this week, but I really appreciate the fact that like you guys just keep going because like you, if it wasn't for my team, I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that I do. I wouldn't be like I go out and create separate content. I would do influencer work whilst my team manage everything that goes on. So I think, yeah, my personal and professional wins of the week are just the fact that I am building a life by design that looks and fits me. And actually, when I look at it, as I talk to other people and like put other content out talking about my experience, I start to find that this is actually what other people do want. So it's even in the fact that other people can resonate and yeah, are impressed by it, which I think is quite a nice thing because I think whenever imposter syndrome kicks in and you're like, am I doing the right thing? You've just got that community that's going, wow, that's amazing, go you. So
Yeah, nice. And what a win to be
yeah,
to achieving like your life by design. It's that's incredible.
yeah, totally. Thanks. Okay, so thank you for being on the podcast. It's been amazing. And definitely, I'd love to have you back on because I like the first ones to be let's just get a generic view of who you are, what you do. And then when people send in questions or if there's anything that people want to expand on, then we might have some specific questions, we might have specific topics. But yeah, I just wanted to get people to meet you because I think what you do is amazing. I think you are amazing. And even though I'm not your client just yet, genuinely you've made a massive difference, like my mindset, my business, and just how I'm looking at finances. I've noticed that in the last year I'm just willing to tackle things more than I was before. Like I'm not burying my head in the sand. So yeah, thank you for just being you and just authentically amazing.
Very, very kind, Chicken. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, brilliant chat. Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, so I'm going to link all of Josh's social media and everything in the links in the bio. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. Keep liking, subscribing, and doing all the normal stuff that you guys do. Bye.